Welcome to Tarmac Life. We're here for the fun toys, cars, SUVs, utes, flights, hotels, because the journey matters too, and even the odd motorbike when we feel like living dangerously. Epic drives and unforgettable experiences, all served up with plenty of banter and zero boring nonsense.
On tonight's show, MG are going premium and fast. We review their all-new IM6 performance. We're getting Streetsmart with Subaru. Price gouging of EVs. The law of economics or just dirty business.
Kia ora and thanks for joining us. Today we're in Cowrie Bay near Clevedon. Fantastic place, and we're actually going to be on a bit of an adventure, but we'll bring you that in a different show. But to start off, I do have a Tarmac tantrum, and this week it's all about trucks and trucking. Don't get me wrong, love you guys. I think you're the lifeblood of what goes on in New Zealand, actually across the world. But why do you have to hug the right-hand lane, which where I come from is the fast lane? You can only go to 90 kilometers per hour. That's your maximum before you get a ticket, but you still seem to go over to the right-hand side and just sit there. I kind of understand it through the traffic right in the middle of town, but once you get out, move over to the left. It really, really bugs me.
Well, to add to what you just said, I'm going to throw trailers into the mix, because anything towing, whether it's a boat or a trailer, caravan, whatever, I don't think should be in that right-hand lane either, because you got to go left and around to pass them, and it just throws the whole motorway into chaos.
Yeah, I understand, because they're all, I mean, even with trailers, they're rated to 90 kilometers per hour as well. And I understand that you got visibility issues as well, but move over the first chance you get, and they generally then tend to not to. It's just so annoying.
Well, I really think that it is a matter of road safety at this point. But regardless of all of that, the car that we are checking out today is extremely qualified for the fast lane. It is the MG IM6, and we get to review it next.
So, as you already know, MG was officially born in 1924 and eventually ceased operations in the early 2000s before coming back again in the 2010s under its Chinese sort of reborn form. So this badge denotes the IM, or Intelligent Mobility Luxury sub-brand of MG. Although it does have an MG badge on the back, there is virtually nothing around interior or exterior to really liken this to any MG product. It stands sort of in a different space completely, and as you can see, really unique looking front, these sort of boomerang tail headlights almost with LEDs. Of course, there is a frunk that sits under here as well. What we have here today is the top of the range performance model. The wheels here are the 21-inch sporty options. There are also 21-inch aerodynamic options, but these are the larger, more sporty ones. Other thing to note and unique with this performance model is the fact that it has air suspension. On top of that, you also have rear wheel steering with crab mode. So we'll show you in the video that it does some really sort of funny movements and things where if you have motion sickness and you're sitting in the back of one of these, beware. This being the performance model means it is obviously fast. So 0 to 100 comes up in 3.4 seconds, which is 2 seconds faster than the Platinum. You also get a top speed of 239 kilometers per hour, which is 4 kilometers faster than the Platinum. Your power output is 572 kilowatts and torque is something like 802 Newton meters. So it is a powerful thing, and equally as impressive as its power output is what's underneath this car. So it runs on an 800 volt architecture, and what that means is you have a more efficient, more powerful use of the battery. It can in fact take 396 kilowatts of DC charge when you are topping this thing up.
First of all, let's talk about this whole implementation for the door cards and the dashboard. There is this super interesting mix between the fabric, then the leather, and then the faux wood that you get on top of it really highlights the mix of the materials and how much they can play around with different textures and the ambient lighting, of course, highlighting the stitching that they can do that goes across the whole cabin, bringing this very organic kind of look that is not super chiseled or full of angles. It is just very fluid and brings this premiumness that is not too common in other cars from the MG brand. Looking at the seats as well, they are extremely comfortable, and as a taller person, I really appreciate how much adjustability there is for the driver's seat, considering that it has a thigh extension, they are ventilated, heated, there are plenty of memory settings, and the driver's seat also gets a massage function. Heating is then standard for the other 3 main passengers, but they also get a lot of comfort. Of course, they get the premium view from this amazing, immense sunroof that you get here above you. And then, of course, just the visibility. Just below this screen, you get a wireless charging pad and a cubby, maybe for your key or a wallet. Then a unified double cup holder that is, again, always very practical. And this armrest that is deep, but not very wide. In terms of the rest of the storage, you do not get a glove box. And then you have to make do with average-sized door pockets in both door cards. Then let me go into a little bit more detail on what's happening down here. And for this, probably the easiest way is to consider this just a replacement for the central console that you would have in other cars. You can swivel around here and then see the current condition of the car, to open the charging flap or the boot and see how, say, the wheels are doing, for example. But then one that I really wanted to highlight in here is actually inside of the driving menu. You get access to most of the driving modes in the car, but then you also get the opportunity to create a custom driving mode that can change power, braking, steering, suspension, and even the height, because of course this car is equipped with air suspension. The interesting bit that IM have done is that they now also have 2 buttons behind each of the spokes of the wheel. But of course, considering that this is the performance model of such a competent EV, it's about time that we go and finish with all this nerdy stuff and we go and take this for a drive.
Introducing the all-new Subaru Forester with next-generation strong hybrid and over 1,000 kilometre range. The all-new Subaru Forester. Get ready to own the road and conquer the wild. Have it all-wheel drive with Subaru.
Here at Tarmac, we really like to pull each other's legs based on the driving that we sometimes have to experience and witness from one another. But being an automotive channel and an automotive show, of course, we can never underestimate the importance of road safety and driver education. And that is exactly why for tonight's Tarmac Talk, we get to talk to Hayden, who is the program director at Streetsmart, and they really know many things about all those topics. First of all, Hayden, thank you so much for making the time. I would love to hear a little bit more about how Streetsmart came to be and your journey with them.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to have us on your show, Harry. About 10 years ago, 2016 actually, we had an opportunity to look at an initiative around road safety and what could be done to help try and move the needle on some of our terrible statistics that we have here in New Zealand. Unfortunately, we are overrepresented, particularly with our young drivers in New Zealand, compared to other OECD countries in regards to our serious crashes and fatalities, where young drivers are responsible. If you look at some of the statistics, so here in New Zealand, for instance, for every 100,000 population, we have between 6 and 7 road deaths per annum, or per capita, I should say. If you look at those world best practice countries, they're between 1 and 2 road deaths for the same per capita, and looked at where potentially the gaps are in the New Zealand licensing system. So the licensing system is obviously really important and very road code based, so very road rule based. But where it sometimes lacks is that ability to be aware of your surroundings and the actual awareness when you're driving, and to be able to drive safely. So they're the two key factors, safety and awareness. And one of the things that comes through in the scientific research as well is that you want to capture the young people when they're young. So you've probably heard before about the front lobal system of your brain. It develops, it's still developing at a young age. So what we want to do is try and capture people at a young age while that front lobal system and the cognitive learning is still developing. The young driver comes along, they bring the vehicle that they're learning to drive in, so they're in that sort of comfort zone, and they've had some experience behind the wheel. But we also were really, really unique. We're the only program in the country where we get mum and dad or guardian to come as well. Pretty much every parent comes away from the day saying, I learned some good things today as well, which is great. Yeah.
So many interesting topics of discussion in here. So it's really great to see that not only are you putting the effort towards fixing it and not letting the problem grow while people are still keen to learn and don't have a lot of those habits, but also that there is a lot of data to corroborate the fact that it is making a difference. It's so cool to see this. I would love to know a little bit more about the program itself. It's a very wide range of activities, right?
It is. So each day we'll have up to 35 young drivers plus their parent guardians, and they each experience 7 different activities, which are activities that through research have shown that they are the most critical ones to help them be safer and more aware, and where some of the gaps are. So for instance, one of them is hazard identification and distractions. We demonstrate some what happens if you are distracted or bombarded by all these different things that you're experiencing, and what you can miss that is actually a hazard and could cause a crash or something more serious.
It is only by being able to experience these things in a controlled environment that you can sort of build this muscle memory, so then when things go out of control in a different environment, you just by reflex, you can bring it back to those learnings that you have. I cannot say enough good things about how much this makes sense.
Yes. So it's things like that.
Off camera, we spoke about Subaru and their commitment to all of this. We sort of know at this point that Subaru has been sort of a champion for safety in cars and sort of playing around the lines for what Volvo has been doing for a little while. Something else that needs to be talked in conjunction to that is that it is only one part of the equation to put all those safety systems in the cars, but people being able to not be complacent because of the presence of those systems and then drive still in a safe manner, pretty much pretending that the systems were not there, is also then the next part of it, right?
Very much so, Harry. And Subaru will say that themselves. All vehicles now, no matter what modern vehicle you've got, they've got a wealth of different safety system. The key thing is that we are the people as humans that should still be in control of that vehicle. So as you say, if you can be a safe and aware driver without any of those systems, and then you have the advantage of those systems being there to help assist you if something goes wrong, then that's a fantastic result. You don't want to be in a situation where you're 100% reliant on those systems to do the job for you. No.
And I completely agree with you. Every single parent should get their kids to participate in a program like this, because it's one thing to know how to operate a car. Yes, I know what the gas is, I know what the brake is, but how do I operate it in a safe manner? For me, for others, how do I keep everyone that is around me, be it outside or inside of the car, safe? It should be part of how to exercise the privilege of driving a car, right? So if a family wants themselves and their kids to be part of the program, how does it usually go?
We deliver it to the 6 venues around the country every school holidays. Its current cost is $149 for the young driver to attend, so it's really good value for money. We've got a really easy website. It's www.streetsmart.org.nz, and it's got all the date availabilities in there, all the different venues. There's more information in there about how the day works.
And on the other end of the spectrum, is there a way that we can chuck Matthew as part of the program so he could learn a thing or two?
Yeah, for sure. Look, absolutely. It's not restricted just to the young young drivers? We are mainly geared at the young driver, that 16 to 24-year-old, really, you know. So
Hayden, the work that you guys do is absolutely incredible. Keep doing what you're doing, and we would love to see this growing to all the potential venues that it can be in New Zealand, and that more and more people take up on the offer. Thank you so much for making the time.
Harry, thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate the whole crew for having us. Thanks.
Cheers.
I have to say the advert looked really good, well done. And you in a suit in a 007, you know, illusions or delusions maybe of Bond come to mind. And actually I think you should put your name down for the next role, your starring role.
What can I say? I just think I wear green very well.
Well, green is not his color and you've got the wrong watch on. But anyway, I think it's time for the news. And while we're on the topic of Bond, now the former James Bond, Daniel Craig, has just signed a deal with Denza to be their ambassador of sorts. And while, as you guys might be thinking, Denza is a luxury off-road brand, so are we going to see Daniel Craig in one of those big boxy, either the B5 or the B8? No.
No, you're not. Actually, it's in their sporty, it's leading onto their Fangcheng Bao, because you have to say it like that, into their sort of sporty sedan side. So it is probably more in keeping with the suave Daniel Craig, as it were.
Not stolen.
Absolutely. But I've actually driven that vehicle. Okay. And it looks very much like the Porsche. Doesn't quite drive like that, but it's very fast and is a great GT.
I wonder if as the next 007 car we'll see an Atto one of sorts.
That won't be very thrilling.
Interestingly, they're not the only Chinese brand doing a sort of East meets West crossover, because Ford have recently announced that they're going to be making a budget van, but it'll be made in China. They haven't disclosed any more details about that for now. And they're not the only ones either, because Land Rover and Chery are working together on a new Freelander, and you know something about this.
Yeah, so they've continued the Freelander badge in China. Actually, it's unstopped, so it's actually carried on. Developing or evolving over time. It's probably not what you'd expect to see before, but, you know, it's good to see a name like Freelander carry on. And I don't know, it wasn't a great vehicle when it started off, and I think critics were quite rough on it, to be fair. It'll be interesting to see if it's an electrified or fully electric Freelander, or just, what do they call it, new energy.
And then in the topic of electrification, of course, now with the prices of petrol just shooting through the roof, we have seen a newfound interest in electric cars, which means that if you go into Facebook or even a few news posts, you can see how much more interest there has been into the sales of EVs, both used and new. And while that meant that we saw a massive spike on the sales of new EVs, the ones on the used market just all out of the sudden got 2-3K on top of their average sale price.
It is supply and demand, obviously, and why not capitalize it? Because there is, I mean, EVs have been just, the prices have been coming down, and now they're going back up and back up. Because why not? If the car lots are empty, you might as well get whatever you can. I mean, some would call it price gouging.
And it's not just the only place where EV owners are being hit with these sort of price gouging increases, because, well, if you look at petrol pumps, yes, prices have been going up there, but it's a similar story with public fast chargers, where recently one of the country's leading providers of it have decided that they're going to put their prices up over there. So that parity, you know, the perceived saving, I guess, is shrinking just that little bit.
It's not a massive increase, admittedly, and it's still cheaper to recharge your vehicle, particularly if you do it at home. Again, it's interesting that they're putting the prices up. You could say that delivery of coal and all that sort of stuff is meaning that it's going up. But isn't it all about natural electricity or, you know, native electricity? So you're trying to make sure that it's clean. So I don't know if that argument actually stands up.
And I think that at the end of the day, it paints this really unusual scenario for New Zealand, where once again, we are seeing that cycle that sort of tells me that demand, it's never always natural when it comes to electric vehicles here in New Zealand. I can speak from experience because, of course, I bought my EV, and how do you know that someone is an EV owner? They'll tell you, right?
And as well, not to mention.
Are you a vegan?
I bought my EV when the subsidy was first introduced, and I remember that back in those days, used cheap Leafs in New Zealand were just getting a $2.5 grand price tag on top of them, just because people were expected to get that rebate from the government at the end of it. It's not too different from what we are seeing right now, which again, as I said, just corroborates that cycle that it is never actually about being green, it feels. It's that impression of getting something for cheaper or for free. Either it being the $7.5 grand rebate that you could get back in those years, but now also the whole thing with trying to save on petrol, not exactly because you wanted to migrate to an EV. It's just a little bit weird in my expectation.
The car brands were dropping them, or once the rebate went off, they would drop them down to almost half price, but people weren't buying them because they didn't get that free cash. It's so bizarre. And now the pendulum's swinging again because petrol prices have gone up and so people are flocking for them. You're right. It seems that it's not the EV itself that's driving it. It's people's wallets or their fickleness of. It's hard for car brands to work it out because what do the car brands do now? Order a shed load because they've run out, and then the pendulum slips again and they'll be stuck with these cars that are going to go down in price again. It's tough out there.
It's almost like the quality of the product is not what is necessary to move people one way or the other. It's these external factors that move people in a way that car makers have no control. They cannot control whether or not someone is going to bomb another country and close a strait. They cannot control whether or not the government, well, to a certain degree, this they can control if the government is going to introduce a new rebate to incentivize people to go into those different modes of transportation. I just feel that the whole idea about sustainability or wanting to drive an EV is not exactly the underlying reason why people are choosing to buy or not to buy an EV.
Pickle or not, we'd love to hear your comments on this. But for now, we'll pick up on our review of the MG IM6 next.
It's everything you've always wanted. The all-new Suzuki Fronx.
And of course, the biggest talking point about all of this is the fact that you get all-wheel drive and 572 kilowatts of power with all of that. And the main thing that an EV with all that power does is a launch. And we'll start with that, of course. So sit tight. Oh. My God, this thing is a rocket. It has been quite some time since we had an EV with this amount of power that actually did give the butterflies in the stomach with the launch. It just is relentless. It keeps going. It delivers so much power, and in a way that doesn't die off after you get to certain speeds. So it is really impressive.
We have this kind of lightly moist road surface, and with the all-wheel drive system, it was able to put the power down and go accelerate all the way up without losing traction or any of that.
The fact that the performance one is the trim level that gets the air suspension, because it gives it a little bit of this duality that you would expect from a car that has all this performance, but is also quite luxurious in the inside. It allows it to be a little bit more sort of firm and direct when you're doing those big launches and hustling it around a little bit more. But then when you bring it back to comfort like it is right now, it is able to soak up every imperfection on the road. When you are dealing with a car that is carrying around 100 kilowatt hours worth of battery, it can get a little bit juddery when you have repeated undulations, but when you are dealing with low amplitude and low frequency bumps, they pretty much disappear underneath the air suspension. Is really impressive. It is really amazing what they can achieve in terms of the comfort that you get on the inside, how much of a nice daily driver this here actually is. The tech loads up so quick, and it is such a much better implementation of the tech as we have just seen, especially when you compare to the other cars that we get from MG. So adaptive cruise control is really good, but if you press the spoke down twice, it will go into this pilot mode that is even sort of a hands-free, but what it does is that at the slightest change to the steering wheel input, it just kills it. And to me, it sort of defeats the purpose of the pilot thing, where it was supposed to do a little bit more driving for you. But as you can probably see from that camera, it has now gone into normal adaptive cruise control, and that one is really good, extremely smooth, and gets the day-to-day driving very, very well sorted. So again, it's more about being that all-arounder, that really competent daily driver that will just eat the miles on the bumper-to-bumper traffic, even if the pilot side of things needs a little bit more tailoring to be perfect.
Harry mentioned one-touch thing, so they have really put a lot of work into what they call the IM AI concierge, which is all these features that you can activate with one touch. So it's things like a one-touch parallel parking, one-touch reverse parking, one-touch curbside parking. It's got like a pull-out assist as well, and all these different sort of technological features.
This car does have rear wheel steer, and of course we didn't touch too much on that. I am not a person to get very affected by motion sickness, so it didn't affect me, even though I can clearly tell that it is a very aggressive rear wheel steer module that when you are taking specific turns, you can really feel that the rear is taking a different trajectory than the front. If you are not after all the performance and these missile-like joints on the motorway, you get all of this, which is a lot of very good stuff for the all the way from the entry level
which is
model.
About 66,800 here in New Zealand versus this top spec model, which is just shy of 90,000. So
exactly.
Big jump there.
So if you can separate the performance from the daily niceties, you might as well just get this and then a dedicated track car, and then you get the best of both worlds.
So the IM6 premium product for MG, do those two sort of nameplates go together? Does MG have the space to be a premium product as well?
It's really interesting because although there is an MG brand on the back, what they're trying to do is depart IM from any sort of identification with MG, and I think we can agree that they have premium features, the materials, the way it drove on the inside. Yes, some of the technology is not quite so user-friendly, but as a luxury vehicle, it wasn't bad, and it was fast too.
So there you have it. MG have moved into premium space, and also the car drives like a crab. We now have our new Bond, James Bond, so make sure you make a vote from that. And price gouging, we really don't like it, but if you want to avoid that, stay home and watch our show next week. See you then.
The cows have decided they've had enough of us.
The car that we are reviewing next is extra qualified for the pass lane.
The Hey!
Come on, it was not terrible.
The Wasp.
Well, nature rebelled against me with how shit my take was.
Absolutely.
I can speak from
Experience.
I can speak from frontier.
You can't.
Cross. I cannot
really
speak.
You crossed a new frontier.
Yeah.
Something is coming through, of course
no.
it is. Yes.
I hope that they don't. I was just afraid they would knock the camera down.
Yeah.
What can I say? I wear green very well.
That brings us on to the news. My God.
All the bloopers are me just saying random things, like we'll probably be out of sausages by the time we're done.
GWM now has Was selling cars?
Okay, team, time to move some metal. Jackson, show them what a real workhorse can do. Tanner, let them feel what it means to be more tank. Wade, give them a taste of that GWM pace. Remember, we're selling more tech, more power, more choice than they ever knew they had.
Find yourself a car, and maybe the Was, at your local GWM dealer.
This is my jam!